Hello and welcome to the Board Game BBQ podcast. I am your host tonight. It is Mitch here in the hot seat. You are listening to episode 247, and as always, we are brought to you by adventgames.com.au and all of our amazing Patreons out there. So thank you very much for your support. I'm here today with a couple of other young, fine gentlemen. I have new Sydney resident, guy who's moving up in the world. Jules, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'm riding a high of multiple events over this weekend, but I feel like I should be wearing an hoodie because both of you are wearing them right now.
That's right. And that brings us to the other end of the spectrum, the guy who's still down on the bottom, the guy who's still dragging the chain, the guy who's still at the bottom of everybody's lists. It's Mike. How you going, Mike?
Hi, Mitch. I'd like to say it's nice to see you again, but yeah. I'm good, matey. I'm good.
It's good to see you. It's good to see you. So, as Jules just sort of alluded to, we have had, all three of us have had a massive last week. It's been pretty hectic. I think Jules probably tips it in terms of the total volume of stuff that he's had on. So let's throw to Jules. Let's just give us a bit of an insight into your last week or so, Jules.
My last week or so, I got down with the sickness for a while. I was unwell, but since recovered. I guess since I was last on the podcast, I've been to New Zealand to do an event there, which was Armageddon, which was a lot of fun, showcasing Marvel Champions, Star Wars Legion, and Star Wars Shatterpoint, which is a brand new miniatures war game, which is good fun. We've had the Board Game BBQ Sydney Winter Game Day just this day gone, which was epic as always. It was so much fun. And I recently, about an hour ago, got back in the door home from Supernova Sydney. So I have had a very full weekend.
Sounds like loads of fun, but it sounds like you're going to finish up here tonight and just crash, I guess.
Pretty much, yeah.
And what about you, Mike? You've done a similar sort of thing. You've been out there in the traps, getting around the scenes.
It's been a bit crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
I had a nice, relaxing holiday in Bali for 2 weeks, but
that doesn't count.
I left Bali at midnight, flew out at midnight. I landed in Melbourne at 7:30 a.m., came home, had a shower, grabbed some game bags, drove 3 and a bit hours up to Albury for BorderCon, where I stayed up playing games till about 3 in the morning and then rinse and repeat the next day as well. So that happened, and then we had the Board Game BBQ Melbourne game day yesterday. And yeah, no, but I'm okay. I can't complain too much. It's been a fun couple of weeks.
Yeah, there's worse things you can do with your time than, just play board games every weekend, hang out with cool people and have heaps of fun. So I don't suppose we should be complaining too much.
Exactly. Board games are the way to do it. If you're going to do it, you're sitting down, you're meeting good people, except for the people that have to play with you at the Sydney Day. But no, it's the way to do it. Like, yeah, for sure.
No worries. So tell us a little bit about BorderCon, Mike, because we sent some awesome photos, and I hear there were some great people there. It was really friendly, and then there was a few.
Yeah, there was a few riffraffs, we like to call them. BorderCon was awesome. Like, it was my first BorderCon, and I was surprised to find out it was the first of any Board Game BBQ host to actually go to BorderCon as well. One of the guys I met there, Craig, summed it up in a really good way. He's been going for, I think he said, like 9 or 10 years, because it's been going for a good 15 or so, and it's sort of grown since then. And he explained it as walking into a big family and walking into a big hug, which is what we sort of feel when we go to our own game days. But a bit more there where people have made friends across country over these years.
Yeah, right.
And they catch up with them every year at BorderCon. It's sort of like what I heard when I went to Gen Con. I heard about people cross country who this is their one time to meet all these people and they get together and schedule things with them. It was really, really cool. I have to say something nice about the Dice Man Cometh right now, and I don't want to.
La la la. I'm not listening.
But Leon, Garth, and Mark did make it really good for me. They welcomed me. They introduced me to a bunch of people. They invited me to a dinner. They helped me definitely settle in.
Yep.
But it was a really well done event. Hats off to Neil who organized it and all the organizers there. They've been running it for a long time. Well organized. People they have shelves everywhere for people to sort of unpack their bags and place their games with a little sign next to it saying, take my games as you like, or you're happy to borrow them, just ask me first, or no, please don't touch my games, I prefer you don't. And most people sort of abide by those rules. They had 2 rooms going, one larger room which sort of finished up around 10 o'clock every night, and the room for all us crazies who wanted to stay up really, really late and play games that was open for 24 hours. One thing I didn't expect that I actually thought was really cool about BorderCon is because people have been going every year for all these years, a lot of people have traditions now. They got these, these BorderCon traditions. So like my tradition at the game days that we do is I always make sure Mafia to Cuba comes at the end of the night. But some of the traditions I was party of and I got to see was one of them was I saw Leon from the Diceman start to put on a luchador mask. You know, the Mexican wrestling mask?
Yeah.
What's going on here? And another person put on a mask, and someone's talking about we're going to be wrestling later. I'm like, are they going to clear the room? Are we getting a ring in there? And then I see a bunch of...
Is this going to be R18? Is it what happens in Tassie should stay in Tassie, maybe?
I did not go to Tassie. Do not accuse me of that. We're talking about Aubrey. Aubrey's fine.
I know. But are they bringing something from the island that shouldn't come to the mainland?
It wasn't that exciting. They were standing around playing a board game. It's some. I didn't get the name of it. It was like a luchador wrestling game, but apparently it simulates wrestling. I unfortunately was in the middle of a game. I didn't get a chance to go have a closer look, but like it was like wrestling. They got the guys in the masks around the table rolling dice and going nuts. They had a crowd around them cheering, but apparently they do this every year, and it's something everyone looks forward to. Another one was as soon as it was coming close to midnight, I had everyone start saying, time's up, time's up, time's up. They do a midnight time's up. Have you guys played Time's Up?
No, I haven't, but I do know about it.
It's basically Monica's. Have you played Monica's?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's pretty much Monica's. Some of the rules were slightly varied, but the main difference I noticed is everyone wrote their own suggestions.
Yeah.
So everyone's writing their own suggestions, put into a pile, and off you go. And I think the Time's Up variant, you have 30 seconds to do as much of the stuff as you can. So the first round is try to explain the card and the example you have as much as you can and get through as many cards as you can. Second round is using one word only, and third word is miming.
Yes.
But it was really funny, and that was a really good icebreaker to meet more people. You're playing in a big group and watching everyone have fun doing that was really cool. And I think there was a bunch more sort of traditions a lot of people had. I didn't get to join all of them. They had about 180 people there, I think.
Good turnout.
Hats off to them
similar
as well.
to the game days.
Yeah, absolutely. They do a yearly raffle for charity, which I thought was awesome.
Okay.
With lots of games donated, and they raised $9,000 for Lifeline, which I thought was really amazing. And everyone gets into it. They make a big deal about it. But yeah, look, really, really well done event. Met lots of awesome people from all around Australia, which is always nice. A lot knew who we were, some didn't. What Warren mentioned, Mitch asked me what the flack was like with the Diceman Cometh. And the story that comes to mind is when they invited me to dinner, it was with a bunch of people I hadn't had a chance to meet yet. And I was sitting right next to the Diceman, and there was a guy, I think his name was Richard, and he sort of leaned over and goes, Mike, you're Board Game BBQ, Mike. I'm wearing the shirt. I'm like, yeah. He goes, you know what you guys do really, really well. And he started talking about how great our podcast is. And I looked to my left, and there's a Diceman just giving him the stink eye. They were like, they're like, we're sitting right here. And he's like, oh, yeah, ha, ha, ha. We kept eating. He goes, you know what else the barbecue do really well? And he kept just giving us these lovely, lovely, very kind compliments. But just the sting it was given to the Diceman just made it beautiful. It was a good time.
Awesome. That's good to hear. Because they did send a spy to Sydney Game Day.
I heard about this.
They did.
They did. And he turned up to the game day yesterday in it was Ron, for those that know Ron. He turned up to the game day and he told us that he got his Diceman Cometh t-shirt express shipped so that he could wear it to the Sydney game day. And, we have rules and policies, so we had to escort him from the venue. No, we didn't. But we had a bit of fun with it. And if you go to our Facebook page, if you want to see Ron getting tossed out of the Sydney game day, you can go there. We had a bit of fun. So we actually got a little bit of real wrestling on. So once again, we do what the Dicemen do, only better. Well said. So how was your to give us a little bit of insight into what you did yesterday, Jules, and with the Sydney game day, how it went down for you? Because we didn't really cross paths that often. I mean, it was so busy, and you get so involved in the games you're doing, the teachers and stuff, and talking to other people that you kind of don't really cross paths with the other hosts and stuff that much.
Yeah, it was hectic, but it was a really busy day. The room was pumping and full most of the day, and lots of people stayed up right until 11 p.m. when we were closing. It was fantastic. We had a massive library this time, lots of games being borrowed. We had lots of new people come for the first time. Some people rocking up at the door saying, I found it on Eventbrite. I'm interested in board games, which is really great to see. And there was one particular person that rocked up, and I sorted out a ticket. I said, what have you played before you've enjoyed this? They said, I really like Werewolf. And all right, okay, there is a Blood on the Clock Tower game starting. It is like Werewolf, but a lot more. You're going to love it. Put them in. I think they had a great time. I saw them playing some other games later on, so that was really fantastic. I didn't get to do a heap of gaming, but I feel like I have a tradition I want to keep going now, in that I run 2 Rooms and a Boom. That's the second time I've run it at the Sydney Game Day. That was just a hit again. Like, it was just so good. There was yelling and screaming from some people. We ran 2 games of it, and everyone just had an absolute blast. I love that game to bits. It's something that I will try and run every single game day I go to. It's my Mafia de Cuba, like Mike does.
I like it.
What else did I get? I also got to do Tammany Hall, which Mitch introduced me to recently. I got to teach that. And I got to play Dogs of War as well, and a hard-to-get game from CMON all these years ago, although it may be coming back into print. There's some rumors floating around the internets that Paolo Mori has the rights again, and there might be some discussions from publishers. So we'll just have to watch that space. I really don't have any more info than that, but rumors abound that might come back.
Yeah, right. Well, I had a similar day. I mean, I played a few games. We did a trick-taking session in the morning because, I really enjoy that. And they're great game day games, trick-takers, because they're sort of quick and enjoyable. And we played Crime Hotel, which is a trick-taker that combines deduction with trick-taking.
Okay.
So you're trying to work out, at the start of the game, you take one card out of the deck, which becomes the room. All of the cards are rooms in the hotel. And so you take one card out, and that's the room where the murderer or the person who committed the crime is. And then you play your cards. I won't go into too much detail. I won't go through the whole rule book. But you play your tricks when you're playing your cards. And as you're playing those cards in your tricks, the more cards you play, it reduces the possibility as to what room the criminal could be in, or the murderer. And your objective to win the game is to be the person who guesses most accurately which room is where the murderer is. So we played that with Murray, Jared, and JB. So that was lots of fun. We played Yokai Septet, which is a very popular trick-taking game at the moment. I've seen a lot of people getting onto that one, and another hard-to-get game because I think the first edition is pretty much completely sold out, and the second edition Kickstarter is either done and they're doing the second print run. They're kind of in between print runs, so you can't really get it at the moment. But that was a good one. And then I played a bit of Wasteland Express Delivery Service, which is a pick up and deliver game set in post-apocalyptic wasteland, where you're staving off raiders and people like that, sort of Mad Max scenario. And it's designed by Matt Riddle and Ben Pinchback. So totally different to the roll and write stuff that they do, which is why I picked it up, because I was like, I really like what they do in roll and writes, and I didn't even realize that game was one of theirs. So when I heard, I thought I'll grab that and see what it's like. And so that was really good. Yeah, it took us a long time. It was a bit of a teach involved with it, but there was again Jared, Murray, and Manny from our Discord. So that was heaps of fun. I think Manny ended up getting the win on tiebreaker, so that was cool. I also played one game that I wanted to talk about, which is a copy of a game that we got sent by the designer, who is currently on Kickstarter at the moment, and the game is called Monsters of Loch Lomond. And I'm really keen to play this game because, well, I have Scottish heritage in my background, and Loch Lomond is a lake in Scotland. And I'm also travelling to the UK in 2 days' time. I'll be leaving, and we'll be spending almost a month in the UK, travelling around and going up into Scotland and stuff as well. And so when he reached out and said, "Oh, I've got a copy of this game. Did you want to check it out?" I was like, "Yeah, I really like to actually, because it sort of really suits what I'm doing at the moment." Anyway, so he got us a copy before the game day. I took it down there to do a cute couple of demos. It's a pretty good game. It's a different sort of card game to what I've played before, in that you get dealt 4 cards at the start of the hand, but you can't look at them. They've got to go face down, and then you're allowed to sneak a peek at 2 of them. And the whole deck is made up of monsters and humans. And the object of the game is to try and get, so your 4 cards make up your clan. You're trying to get the monsters out of your clan into the Highlands and have a set of humans left at the end of the round. And the first person who thinks that they've just got humans left in their hand at the end of the round can basically says a name. I think it's Saucer, which is a Gaelic word. And they effectively stop the round. And then everyone has one more turn. You turn your cards over. And if you have the lowest number of points, you're trying to get that, because humans have a lower score value than monsters. So your lowest number of points with no monsters in your hand to win that round. Yeah, so it's kind of different like that. So it's not your normal sort of card play type mechanic. It's definitely got that deduction in there because there's hidden information. But you're also trying to, when the monsters come out of the deck, they also have powers that let you do stuff. So you can either peek at a card or you can swap someone else's cards around. So you can mess with other people. They might have you might tell, they know what that card is, so I'll swap that with something else. So now they don't know what that card is. So you can kind of push them under the bus. And yeah, there's a couple of little different mechanics. There was 1 or 2 bits that kind of fell a little bit flat. And I had a chat with the designer on Discord afterwards, and he was like, "Yeah, we found the same thing, Sam. We've already got some plans, and we're going to update that." So I guess that's one of the pitfalls that you fall into when you try sort of prototypes and games that are sort of still in development. You don't end up with the final finished product. But I think there's definitely something there in terms of a cool little game if you like those deduction games. If you got a good memory, because I struggled, especially after you've played a couple of hands. Does anyone else do this? You play a couple of hands, and the first hand you go, yeah, okay, I remember that. And then 2 or 3 hands in, you're like, I remember having a card, but was that this hand? Or was that last hand?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I had the warrior, but is that now, or am I just remembering having it from last time? Yeah, so it's crazy. So you get yourself twisted up in a knot, and it's a bit of fun. So yeah, I also played it with my daughter, and she really enjoyed it. So it's something that you could play with kids and stuff as well. Layla's 13, so she's not a really little kid, but yeah, family sort of weight game. Yeah, so that was my game day. It was lots of fun and crazy busy. I always come out of game days with a bit of a croaky throat.
Yeah. So you can't do Informer right now. You can't lay that down right now.
Mate, I can always do Informer. It's part of me.
Speaking about trying to remember your turns, I want to mention one game that I kind of played. I more hung around like a bad smell and tried to be included in it. Have any of you seen this game, Ricochet Robots?
Yes.
Oh, I've heard it. Yeah,
I know nothing about it. And some of the guys said at like 2 a.m, let's play Ricochet Robots. Cool, let's see it. I have never felt dumber in a game in my life, and absolutely in awe at watching people play something. It was so interesting. It's basically a big grid, a big board with like just squares everywhere. And in and amongst it, there's little like corners blocked off, like little walls, if you would. And they have like 4 or 5 different colored robots around the board. And the idea is you flip over a token, and we need to make this red robot land on this red spot on the board. Cool. The thing of the game is you can do it as many turns as you like. The first person who says they can do it in X amount of turns starts a timer that might be a minute, and everyone else just stares at the board in silence, working out if they can do it in less moves. And all it is, the rule is, if you move a robot in a direction, the robot keeps moving in that direction until it hits something, being another robot or being a wall. And so you're watching everyone just stare at a board, and someone will go 7 and silence, 6 and silence. How do you do 6? Oh, I see it. And I'm like, what the hell are you people talking about? And the reason you made me mention it, Mitch, is because the memory thing. I got one. And I'm like, 6. They go, all right, Mike, you've been quiet the whole time. Show us. I'm like, crap, I can't remember. I'm trying to backtrack because you can move all the robots. So sometimes you have to move one robot to hit something. So I can move this robot and stop there, then move the robot this way. And these guys are pulling out numbers like 14 and 15. And I'm like, and they have to say it, figure it out and say it, and then wait there for the minute for no one else to beat them. And then they have to say, okay, well, I'm going to move this robot here, and this one's going to bounce off this one, then this is going to go there. And I'm just like, I feel so dumb right now. It was amazing. Ricochet robots, like talking about memory and just working your brain muscle. And at 2 a.m,
it's a tall order.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to bump in with that one talking about memory. I'm like, that was something really interesting that I've never seen before.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Sounds like fun. I think I've heard... No, I'm thinking of... Isn't this a Robo Rally or something?
There's Robo Rally, which is what I thought they were pulling
different.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I think
That's
it
when
might be really
off.
loosely based of it, but I think it's like a sequence that you play, I think, and then you let it go. But this one is just everyone just staring at the board, screaming numbers at each other. It was crazy.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely crazy. Sounds
like Ready, Set, Bet. Everyone just standing in a circle screaming.
Oh, yeah, I haven't played it. I just got a copy, but I haven't played it yet.
Yeah, right. So out of your time, Jules, playing all the games and spending all the time at the conventions and the events and stuff that you've done over the last week, was there anything that was a standout for you that you wanted to talk about today?
Yeah,
maybe your sizzle.
So for me, it came as a surprise. So I've talked about this, periodically on the podcast. Years ago, in my hobby days, I used to play a lot of Warhammer, and when in New Zealand doing work, as I said before, we were showing a game called Star Wars Shatterpoint. Now, this is a miniatures war game, and I was honestly very surprised at how much fun I had with this game. So the idea is you have 2 strike teams, and those strike teams are made up of a primary, secondary, and support unit. And like a typical war game, those units will have stats for attack and defense and things like that. And you're doing a lot of dice rolling and movement using rulers. Those are all familiar if you've ever played a miniatures war game. But what is so different about this war game, it is extremely hard to kill things. It is very hard. Okay. You might go and kill 1, maybe 2 things in an entire game. The game has really been designed around being a strategic objective capturing game. And that alone sets it well apart from things in its field and brings it somewhat, in my view, closer to a board game. That it really becomes about area control, but done in more of a war game fashion. And it's really cool how the game operates. So you have a card that is represented for each unit on the table. And you shuffle that deck up, and on your turn, you'll flip the deck, and it will tell you who you have to activate. There are ways in which you can manipulate that deck, but I won't explain all the rules of the game. But essentially, flip the card, activate that unit. You get to do a couple of basic things like move, attack. You can hunker down to, receive extra defense if you're being shot at, things like that. But then the attack and defense mechanisms in this game are really cool. So depending on what character you're using, it'll tell you how many attack dice you roll, and whoever you're attacking, it'll tell you how many defense dice you roll, and that depends if it's a ranged or a combat attack. And there's sort of negating hits and misses, and there's expertise that you can spend to make more hits or critical hits. And once you do all that mathematics and figure out how many successes are left over or got through for attack, that's not the amount of damage you end up doing. What you instead do, say I had 3 successes, is you refer to a combat tech tree, and you get to move that many spaces along it. So I get to move 3 nodes along this tree. And those trees typically have branching paths. So you can start to customize or be strategic about what effects you want to apply, because these options are not just damage. Most of them will have damage along the way, but there'll be effects like to push someone away or to stun someone or to what other effects are there? You can disarm them.
Okay.
And all depending on what the board state's like, you're trying to disrupt your opponent. And that's the word I walked away from learning and playing this game a bunch, was this game's not about killing each other like most war games. It's about disrupting your opponent and trying to be strategic about taking those objectives. And the game plays over 3 struggles. And so essentially at the end of your turn, if you have the most units next to an active objective, you'll score a point for it. And the point system is a tug of war. So you have this cube going back and forth on this track, and you're trying to make that middle cube reach your side where there's a black cube. And what those black cubes are called as momentum cubes, and they start at the very ends of the track, but you'll add more and more black cubes to your side as you wound characters. And as you, it can also happen if the struggle tracker ends in the middle of the track at the end of your turn, then both players add a momentum cube to their side. So the game pushes you towards a result. You don't get stuck in stalemates where in some war games, and certainly happens in Warhammer, some people like to sit back and let the enemy come to them and try and shoot as much as possible and duck behind cover. And you can kind of get a bit of cat and mouse going on. But this game pushes towards a result. And because of that, it plays in about an hour and a half. It's not a long, like 3 to 4 hour affair that takes a million years to set up because you only have 8 or 9 models, and the terrain's really simple to assemble and put together. I will say that if you are looking at getting this game, you do have to build your models and build the terrain.
Are they pretty?
It goes together. They're very pretty.
Yeah.
The models are really nice because they're a bigger scale than Warhammer. They're just, I don't know the exact measurements, but it's just that bit bigger. So for people that might want to get into painting, it's probably more approachable because the details are a bit larger, and they're really well sculpted.
And are the characters like Star Wars things most of us would know?
Yeah, so at the moment, all the content is sort of Clone Wars era. So you've got Darth Maul, you got Count Dooku and things like that. But yeah, it's really, really surprised me how much fun I had with this game. It's it's fair to say it's a miniatures war game, not a board game, but it feels so different to any other war game I've played before. And I was really surprised by that.
And did you? I think I heard you say, Jules, that if anyone bought a copy of this game and came to you and mentioned this review on this episode of the podcast, that you would paint all their minis for free. Did you? Did you say that?
In 24 hours.
I can do that. I just need to charge $500 shipping.
But I walked to your house.
There's a handling fee too.
No, that's for anyone listening. I was only kidding. Jules wouldn't do that for free, but he will charge you for it.
Yeah.
So it's not like, so just listening to you go through that though. Like, I mean, I've never played Warhammer, but I've sort of seen these war games and stuff at different cons and conventions and things, and it always looks sort of squad based. Is that how this is as well, or is there, like you said, that there's the individual characters as well, like all those?
Yeah, it's more individual characters. The support units come as a squad of 2, but they can act independently, so you can move them away from each other. You don't have to keep them grouped together. So that's another reason it sort of really broke away from conventions. Is yes, you have a squad of 2 bases, but you can send them on opposite sides of the board, which is totally against all the other rules in Warhammer. They have to be within an inch of each other and things like that. So yeah, it's mostly just individual characters. You don't have squads per se. You can move them anywhere you want. It's really good fun. There's a couple extra rules, but it was honestly pretty easy to pick up, and yeah, lots of fun. Really, really good fun.
Sounds good.
And you mentioned all the characters from the Empire side of things. Any rebels in there?
So on the good side, there's Anakin. And there's Captain Rex. Obviously, some clone troopers and Mandalorians as well. There's also Obi-Wan. You can get Obi-Wan as an expansion.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So
and
there's going to be
probably be more come out, right?
Oh,
it's going to probably be one of those things that release bits and pieces. And
yeah, absolutely. That's what I was about to say. There's going to be heaps more expansions down the pipeline. Yeah, so you'll be able to custom, like at the moment, the core box is sort of designed where you've got your full strike team. You can't customize it, but as more expansions come out, you'll be able to customize the team you put together and sort of play on the different strengths and abilities that the characters have as well. So that's Star Wars Shatterpoint.
Sounds good. Well, while we're talking about a battle skirmish game, I might roll straight into my sizzle of the week, which is anyone who has listened to the podcast before probably knows that I'm a bit of a Chip Theory Games fanboy. And
No.
just a little bit. Just a
Mitch
little
like
bit.
neoprene stuff? No.
So I was lucky enough to get my hands on my copy of Hoplomachus Remastered.
Is an apt word.
Lucky is probably an appropriate word. Yeah, no, it's been a
journey.
Journey's a good word for it. You know, we've grown. We've learned a lot from the
Grown
experience.
older?
Yeah, definitely grown older. Yeah, look, you know, these things happen, you know. And it got here all in one piece, so I was quite happy. That's all that matters. Yeah, so I was super keen to get it out and have a go. And so it's funny, Brad came in when I was playing it and he said, "What's this game?" And I said, "Oh, Hoplomachus." And when I said Hoplomachus, he looked at me like I was speaking another language. And I guess kind of technically I am, because I think Hoplomachus is Grecian, is it? Ancient Roman? I'm not entirely sure.
Greek, are you trying to say?
Yeah, Greek.
We need Def here.
Def's not here, so I can't speak Greek. But anyway, the game is set in the ancient gladiatorial sort of era, within that sort of ancient Roman mythology, where you are essentially pitted against your gladiators and your forces against. There's different game modes, but essentially either other different forces, the arena forces, or immortals and titans that are on the other side. You can play the game up to 4 players, so you can have like co-op teams of 2 versus 2, or you can play just standard 2v2, or you can also play solo. I think originally the game was designed for solo only. I'd have to double check that. I don't know when the original version came out, because Hoplomachus was actually the first of the Chip Theory line that they did.
Yeah.
And after that they did Too Many Bones. So even though they're probably most well known now for Too Many Bones, Burn Cycle, Cloudspire, Hoplomachus was actually their first one. And so there was a big push. There was a lot of interest to have Hoplomachus redone. So the campaign was for a new version of Hoplomachus called Victorum. So Hoplomachus Victorum, and with the campaign, they remastered the old version of Hoplomachus as well. So I haven't had a chance to look at Victorum yet, because these are big games. There's a lot to them. There's a lot going on, and I wanted to get into the original Hoplomachus first to understand all that, because I understand there's DNA that they share together. There's some new stuff that Victorum does. We'll have to figure that out later, and I'll probably talk about that in the future. But so Hoplomachus, the version that I've played is a solo version. I haven't had a chance to get it down multiplayer yet, but I think it will be good multiplayer as well. And so the version I played is called Onslaught. So you ultimately pick your they're like a clan. I guess they're a unit of different soldiers, and they all have different powers. Each of them come on their own chips, because it's the Chip Theory thing. They also have the chips for their health tokens, which is one of the things that I think Chip Theory do so well. Being able to see a tall stack on the board, and it's the same in Too Many Bones. You see a huge stack of chips, and you think, oh my god, that thing's going to be so hard to beat because it's got so much health. With you versus when it's a tiny little stack, they're nothing. I can take them on.
Just wait, Mitch, until you start playing Cloudspire and you see the monumental tower of enemies stacked up at the base that you have to overcome. Right. That's where the chips stack real high.
Yeah. Okay. But I think it gives your games that elevation, sort of other dimension to the game with the hide on it as well. So yes, that's really cool. And in the Onslaught version, you play on one particular side of the board. So again, neoprene mats for their game boards, just beautiful. And the boxes are so well designed; it all fits inside, so you can roll the mat up and actually fit it in the box. So that's great. And you play on this Colosseum type arena. There's a couple of like plinths in the middle, and it's kind of. I guess it's kind of like, it's not tower defense where they have, is it the tower defense where the waves of enemies come in over and over?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that, because you do have that. So like every round, new enemies will come in, providing you've taken out old ones. And there's a certain limit to how many will come in at a time based on which of the monsters that you're fighting. And so it's essentially just a a good guys versus bad guys sort of brawl for all fest in the middle of the Colosseum, and you choose which units you want to move out there, and then it becomes a tactical sort of battle to take them out. All of the factions have different abilities, so there's what do they call it? Connor says it all the time. He loves it. Very asymmetry. Asymmetry. There you go. So there's all different stuff that happens with all the different factions, and yeah, you're kind of deciding. Obviously, some will be like tanks. They can take a lot of damage, but they may move slowly and not do a lot of damage. There's ones that have that taunt ability, so they can draw the attacks to them, while your other characters, do other attacks and maybe go for other objectives. So in this particular mode, there's, I think it was 6 immortals, and they're like bosses. And you have to work your way through all 6 of the bosses. So you basically shuffle them up, stack them on top of each other, take the top one off the top of the pile, and that's the first boss that you'll fight. So even within that game, your strategy in the way that you're playing against these bosses will change, because this particular boss, say for example, one of the bosses I fought, you could not attack that boss and do damage to the boss. The only way you could do damage to the boss was to attack its minions, and every time you killed a minion, the boss lost a health.
That's cool.
Yeah, but there's this other track, which is like there's a track on the side of the board, which is like crowd support. So if you move up the track of the crowd support, you unlock bonus powers and abilities, and also unlock your bosses. So your clan also has a leader, like a boss, which is stronger and has more cool powers and abilities as well. And at the very top of that track also, there's a secondary boss that you can unlock if you can get your crowd support meter all the way up, which thematically is like, you're in the gladiatorial combat and the crowd's going crazy, and you do cool stuff, and so the crowd hype meter goes up, and the more the crowd hype meter goes up, the more cool things you get to bring into the battle as well, right? So that's kind of awesome. And then, but in this particular one, with this particular boss that I'm talking about, you couldn't attack it and do damage to it. If you attacked, the only way to increase your crowd hype meter was to attack the boss. So there's this decision space. Yeah. Do I attack the minions in order to take the boss's health down, or do I attack the boss and not attack the minions to pump up my crowd score and unlock my then bonus abilities and stuff like that? So there's a decision space. But then once you defeat that boss goes out, you sort of reset the board, and the next boss comes in. Totally different system. You might have to have a totally different way to attack, because now you can attack the boss. The boss will take damage, but the boss will have different control over the minions and the way the minions are going to attack you and how they come out. So even within the same game, the game changes as you play through based on the bosses that come out, and your strategy will change as well. One thing that I did find is that you go through, as I said, you also start off with 4 chips they're called tactics, and they're like special powers. Things like heal 1 unit 2 points, something like that. Little things. Take an extra move. This unit can now take an extra move every turn. Those sorts of things. But when you spend them, they're discarded, so you can only spend 4 of them. The thing is, you start taking out immortals, and you may beat 1 or 2 if you're lucky. You got to get through 6, remember, and then you go, okay, cool, I beat that immortal. And now I've got to go again against the next ones, but none of your stuff refreshes. The only way to refresh all your tactics and things is to push that crowd meter up. One of those bonuses that you get from pushing up your crowd hype meter is to refresh all your tactic chips that you've spent.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. So if you go too hard too soon to beat the immortal that you're fighting at that time, then as soon as you've done it, you go, oh man, I got no chance now. There's no way I'm going to get through the next 5 of them or whatever, right? So yeah, it's really hard, which is again good for a solo game, because you don't want to just blitz through everything. But you really have to think about it. You can't just chuck in all your powers early. You've got to focus on both, the crowd meter in order to get that up, because you really have to unlock those bosses and the ability to get your powers back in order to get through. It becomes a marathon, because there's so many of those immortals to get through in order to win the whole game. I think it's going to be one of those games where I'll play it over many, many years,
Mm.
and I'll never do it. I was talking to, I can't remember, I think it was Manny. I was talking to at the game down the weekend, and he was saying that I think even online he was reading on the forums, and people were like, "Yeah, I've beat 5 out of 6, but I don't know anyone who's beaten all 6."
Okay.
Like
Oh,
that sort of
wow.
stuff. Yeah. So
Good challenge.
yeah, good challenge. So I really enjoyed it. Am I a little biased? Probably, because I really enjoy chip theory stuff. But I think it's a game that, if you're if you don't mind the theme, if you like the sort of gladiatorial combat thing, and you like those sort of skirmish battles, or it goes without saying, chip theory games componentry is off the charts. It's all awesome, really well made stuff. Yeah, and I think if you like that sort of thing, I think you'd really enjoy it. So I remember saying to Jules, pretty much the day I got it, I was like, I think you'll like this, Jules, because of your.
It's got vibes to Super Fantasy Brawl in like just the arena layout, and Super Fantasy Brawl itself is a skirmish game. It's my number 2. I love that game. So, yep, sign me up, Mitch, for a head-to-head game when you're back.
Yeah, because you need more games you can whip me in, Jules.
Yeah, I need more heads to crack.
Yeah, so that's my game of the week. That's Hoplomachus Remastered by Chip Theory Games.
Very nice.
Cool. And how about you, Mike? Do you have something out of all the games that you've played? I know you probably can't even remember half the games you played, but do you have some game that's been standing out like a shining beacon?
Would you allow me? I want to talk about some party games. I want to do an honorable mention and then a sizzle, if that's all right with you. They won't take too long because they're party games. Both are a bit harder to get, so if you end up looking for them, they might be a bit difficult. Liz from our community, who lives up in Albury at BorderCon, she came and grabbed me and goes, Mike, you need to play this game with us. You need to play this game with us. So she rounded a bunch of us together and we went to a table and we played a game called Top 10. Now, good luck typing Top 10 board game into Google and trying to find it.
That's why it's hard to find.
That comes up with lots of many interesting things. So it was actually, I think, I can't remember if it won or was nominated for a Spiel des Jahres, but it never came out in English.
Right, okay.
Which is such a shame, but apparently there's talks that it should be coming out next year. So in this game, it's a party game. You pick up a card. It's got 2 prompts on it. You choose one and read it out. Before you read it out, you hand a number. So I think you can play up to 10 players. Sorry, you're supposed to play up to 9 players, but you got cards numbered 1 to 10. So you deal 1 to each player. 1 goes out of the game. So I might be sitting there and I might have number 3. Okay. And you read one of the prompts. So the prompts might be to say something or mime something out. I want to talk about a mime one that we did that was really, really funny. You read out the prompt and it's going to give you a scale. Okay. So it's got wavelength vibes, but it's so much sillier. So I might read it out. So one of the ones we did at the night was the player next to you has just farted. You need to mime out your reaction to that fart. 1 being the most grotesque thing you've ever smelt and 10 being barely noticeable. So then you look at the number you've got and you need to react in that scale.
Okay.
You know? So for example, I look over at Mark from the Dice Man and he looks like he's having a seizure and falls off his chair. All right. It's probably a good bet that he's up there. And
isn't that just normal Mark behavior?
It is normal Mark. It is normal
Mark.
But the fun thing about the game is watching how, like, when you're the first player to do the answer, it's a bit difficult because you're trying to find that scale. But once people before you have said something, you can bounce off of it. So, like, in that one of the people said, we did another one where you wake up in the morning and to the smell of something, you know? And one of the people said, I wake up in the morning to the smell of just fresh air, just air. I'm like, all right. They sound like they're about a 5. And the next person bounced off and said, I wake up in the morning and I smell air as well, but it's got a slight lemony zest. I'm like, okay, they might be a 6. So, like, everyone starts bouncing off each other.
Okay.
And the actual original game, for such a little funny party game, it's got a neoprene mat where you stack the cards.
Okay.
And
sounds awesome.
It's a stack of poker chips. It could be done by Chip Theory. It's got a stack of poker chips. On one side are unicorns, pink, fluffy, beautiful unicorns. On the other side, Mitch has got to love this one, it's a poop. So the idea is you've got 6 lives. And if you find someone, okay, I reckon you're number 6. And they pull out number 6. You go to the next person, all right, I reckon you're number 7, but they were number 5. You've gone backwards, you flip a unicorn into a poop. And if you're supposed to try to last 5 rounds without busting, basically.
Mm.
So it was just fun. It was just so silly watching everyone do all these crazy things. It was a really, really big laugh and a really fun party game. It's that game you can take to a family night of people who don't play board games, replace your charades and all that sort of jazz. Like, it was called Top 10. It was just such a fun experience. Liz listened to the podcast, so she knew it was up my alley. And I think she said it's got poop on the coin. So it was a really, really
Match
fun
made in
game.
heaven.
So that was my honorable mention.
Liz,
top 10.
Liz, it's good to know, Liz, just a shout out to Liz. It's good to know that when you hear poop, you think Mike.
Exactly. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
It led me to a great game, so we're doing well. My sizzle, though, was another game I'd never heard of, and someone pulled it out, called Belratti. Belratti, Belratti. And I'm trying to find a way to explain it. And it's almost like Dixit meets, oh my God, I had it in my head before. What's the one you write words down and show someone?
Codenames.
No, Codename.
No.
Oh my God.
Oh, you don't write
Not
notes.
Pictionary.
No, I can't. My brain's,
So Clover? Just one.
It's both of those. It's got a feeling of So Clover and Just One. You don't write anything, but about that interpretation and about extra things being thrown in to throw you off. So
Yep.
the theme of a game is it's like an art museum, okay? And there's an evil counterfeiter named Belratti who wants to get his counterfeit paintings into the museum. And you play a sort of two teams. So you deal out these cards randomly, and you're either, I think it was owls or cats. And the people who are owls are the managers of the museum, and they're asking for art. They're going to be asking the artists, who are cats, for pieces of art. And you want to try to get as many as you can before you bust. So the artists might say, all right, the owls might say, okay, artists, we want 5 paintings from you. Okay, we want 5 paintings collectively from the artists. So not 5 per artist, 5 all up. Cool. And then they flip over 2 cards. Now, all the cards in this game, the cards that they flip out, the cards in your hand are all the same thing. They're just pictures. They're just little cartoons of, I was looking at an example before. So we played a game where a cardboard box came out and the Eiffel Tower. 2 seemingly very different things. But the fun part about this game, it's all subjective. It's one of those games about how do you think, like Wavelength, like So Clover, like all those games about how you think. So then you look at your cards, you think, okay, do I have any cards that fit the theme of the Eiffel Tower or a box? Now, the fun part is as well, they specifically say, do not mention what the cards are. We can't say it's an Eiffel Tower. We can't say it's a cardboard box. You don't want to give any lean into what the theme is, okay? Because it doesn't have to, the cards that you've got to be playing don't have to represent a cardboard box. It could represent a container. It could represent paper. It could represent transport. It's subjective. So then you look at your hand of, I think, 9 cards, and you think, okay, I've got this card and this card. They're pretty good. You can't say what you have. You say, I've got a pretty good feeling about these cards here, or, I've got 2 cards. What do you have? Oh, I've got 2 cards as well. I've got nothing. Okay, well, I've got 2 and you've got 2. We're nearly at our 5. We need 1 more. Well, I got 1 here. It's a bit of a push. Like, it's a bit out there. It's a bit of a push. Well, that's all we got. Okay, we're going to submit these 5 cards to the museum. But then Belratti, from the top of the deck, submits 4 of his own. Okay? And we shuffle them all up and we lay them all out. And then that's where the artist's job ends. They have to sort of put their game face on. And the artists then discuss, well, here's these now 9 pieces of art. We need to try to weed out the counterfeits that Belratti put into the game. And we need to select which artworks go into which theme. So, for example, the Eiffel Tower and a cardboard box. And then it becomes really interesting. So one of the cards that came out, for example, was like a masquerade mask, like a cardboard mask. Well, are they talking about like Europe parties, fashion, or are they talking about the cardboard, And then the artists have to the museum curators have to sort of decide which category they go in, which ones are weeded out from Belratti. And they have a few lifelines. So both teams have a couple lifelines they can use, like swap the cards given as examples. Or one of the artists can say, nah, my cards are horrible. They're not working for me. I want to swap 6 out. There's a couple other ones. Can't remember what they all are. But then if you spend those lifelines, they're now used and the back has a number. And the number might be 3, might be 6, might be 4. And the idea is if you use that lifeline in a future game, you have to get that exact many right. So, for example, if you flip over one of these lifelines and the back of it says 6, in the future game, the curators have to say, give us 6 cards. We have to successfully get 6 cards into those areas to flip that lifeline back over. And basically, yeah, so the curators figure out which artworks they want to go into which category, and then they start pointing. Okay, artists, did anybody submit this one? Yes or no? Yes? Okay. Is it in the right category? If it's in the right category, it's a point for our team. If it's our art that we selected, but it's in the wrong category, we had a different idea about it, it comes out of the running, but we don't lose any points. If it's a counterfeit, if it's one of Bellatti's and nobody else placed it, it goes into a negative pile. And I think as soon as you hit like 7 negative points, the game's over. But it was one of those awesome games about, you know, your opinion and what your thoughts are and how you think this thing should fit into this. And, you know, I saw a game played where there was like a wooden horse and a handgun and a carriage came out. I'm like, oh, does the carriage go for the handgun? Like, are they thinking Wild Wild West? Or does the carriage go towards a horse and carriage? Like, it comes up
Couldn't
with all
it be
these...
both?
No, it can't be both. You have to... The artist has to choose and be truthful about which one they're putting it into. You know? So it was just, once again, a really amazing party game that didn't go for too long, had everyone talking. I can't believe you thought that was that, you know? A fishing net was put under a phone because they're like, oh, the fishing net is the net, the internet. The other one was a kite. I'm like, well, the net has to be for the kite because it's the string that makes the net, you know? Like the artwork, when it was explained to me, I'm like, well, this is going to be easy. But then just the ideas people have and the things you come up with were really unique and really interesting. And it made for a great conversation. And it was just we played 2 rounds. I straight away said, I want to go again. Like, this was amazing. Let's see how many we can get. And I think it's like, if you get 15 successes, you did okay. You know, anything under that is a fail. Or if you get 30 is the one to go for, where you were really, really successful and your team did a great job. But it's a really fun cooperative game. Once again, you don't need to be a gamer to enjoy it. I think it's a really good introduction game. I have managed to find a copy. There's not many out there. I had to get it off Amazon. There was nowhere in Australia I could find it. But there's like, I think it's like $35 on Amazon or something at the moment. There's a few left. But Belratti, it was really interesting and made for really good conversation. And that's my Sizzling Game. It was just so much fun.
Nice.
And I'm waiting for my copy to arrive from Germany because that's where they all are. So I'm hanging for that.
Right.
Cool.
Well, before we move on to the next segment, though, Mike, I know that you have been a bit of a detractor of trick-taking games in the past.
Yes.
You've said that, you know, they don't necessarily vibe with you and you don't always click in terms of how they go. But a little birdie told me that you might have found one that's a little bit up your alley.
I did. Trick takers are really hit and miss with me. Like everyone's loving Cat in a Box at the moment, and I got a copy. I thought it was okay, but like for me, I don't know, it just didn't land. But I did look when I was at BorderCon. I met up with a bunch of blokes from Brisbane, and I think you guys know when I play games, I like to trash talk at the table. I get a big kick out of giving each other crap, and I found a couple of blokes. A few blokes up there that were like me in that way, and they pulled out my brain Stick'em, where you can sort of everyone's got like a color that's their negative color they don't want to win a hand with, otherwise they get these negative points. And it was just a great way to stick them and, you know, stuff people up and mess with them. And usually I'm not great at trick takers, and I smashed them all in my first game. I felt so great because it had that interaction level, it had that take that level, and I felt like I understood the language of that one a little bit better. But Stick'em was a fantastic game. I really did enjoy it.
Had they played before? Or were you guys
they'd all played before, so I was like the only one
right.
not really knowing what was going on. Actually, Jace was in the game as well from our community. Me and Jace were the underdogs there, trying to catch up. But we all had a really good time. Big laughs, like. Everyone knows with me, big laughs win me a game. You know what I mean? That makes the game really stick with me, and Stick'em definitely hit that. Another one though, Mitch, for you to keep an eye out on, and this is just because I really enjoyed it. Mesozoic Mayhem, I want to mention. There's a guy there named Craig that made a game, and he asked me and Draven, James from our community, and Jess to play. And it was it looked like a button shy game, like a little pouch, bunch of cards. The back of the cards are all colored, so you know what category the cards are under. They're all different colored dinosaurs. And you have a little card in front of you that says, okay, well, under the orange dinosaur, there was, I think I think there was 2 of every number in the game. So in the orange dinosaurs, they have 2s, 5s, and 9s. But the green dinosaurs have 3s and 5s. So you're looking at someone's hand, and I can see they've got a green and a white and a yellow and a purple. So I know they've got these colors. They played these ones before. I've got this in my hand. So you can try to deduce what everyone had. It was really, really good. And once again, I'm not a big trick taker guy, but that one was worth a mention because it looked well planned out. It had a bit of that little vibe of, I can see sort of what you have and I have to try to guess what it is. It was really, really good. And I really enjoyed it. So keep an eye out for that coming out as well.
Yeah, definitely will. All right then. So with that, I think we'll call that a break and we will move on to our next segment.
Hey everyone, it's Sarah here. I want to talk a little bit about one of our sponsors who has sponsored the podcast from the very beginning, and that is Advent Games. Adventgames.com.au is an Australian board game store. This is the store where I get all of my games from, so you know that I'm not just advertising it just because. This is very personal to me. And Dean, who runs it, is very knowledgeable about games. He is a huge board gamer himself, and he often gives advice and things like that, and just awesome all-round customer service. So all around New South Wales, you can get flat rate shipping from adventgames.com.au for $10. If you're somewhere else in Australia, you can get flat rate shipping for $15, not that much more. And if you are super local, you can even see Dean at Chatswood on Tuesday nights to pick up games from him, from his very paws. So that is adventgames.com.au. Thank you so much for sponsoring the podcast.
So our next segment is the question of the pod. Now we have to go back to last time we had a question on the pod. Which was, I believe, what is your favourite trick-taking game? Because we had Daniel Newman on the show last week, and he specialises in doing trick-takers, so we thought that would be a good question to ask the community and see what answers came back. So, Mike, I know you've put in the hard yards this afternoon and scrolled through all the socials looking for the best answers. So, do you want to kick us off and read out a couple of the community inputs on their favourite trick-takers?
Sure thing, man. Sure thing. I'll read out the Discord ones. So Chris from our community said, for nostalgia reasons, I need to say Euchre. I grew up playing with my grandparents and my parents on camping trips and rainy holidays. Of the modern trick-taking games at the moment, it's probably a 3-way tie at the moment between that, the Crew Deep Sea, and Cat in a Box and Stick'em from the modern ones. So they're also a fan of Stick'em as well. Rainer?
I'm a bit surprised to see that actually from Chris because Chris is he's Mr. Co-op. He loves his co-ops.
Oh.
So I'm not surprised to see the Crew Mission Deep Sea there.
Okay.
But Stick'em is quite nasty. So
it is very nasty.
Maybe Chris has a little bit of the demon in him after all.
A nasty boy. I like it.
Yeah, that's what I want to hear.
Rainer did the next one, and I just want to give a quick shout out to Rainer. He was very kind at yesterday's game day, and he gave a few of us a little celebratory die for our 3rd anniversary he made for us. So we have a couple of us host a little die that has not the Board Game BBQ logo on it, but like stuff about board games and barbecues, which I thought was really cool. So shout out to Rainer. Thank you so much for that, mate. That was really nice of you. He said, when back in the day when smartphones and apps didn't exist, Scat would be my most played game, played for hours and hours. And the second would be Cego, it's C-E-G-O. But I saw a few people in the community mention Scat as well. So I don't know. Have you played that one, Mitch? Have you played Scat?
I haven't actually. No, there was a few of the older school trick-taking games that were coming out in the answers that I was kind of like, oh, don't know that one. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I'm sure you would have been scaring those ones. I actually put one in there specifically for you because I saw a solo one in there somewhere. Thomas also said Scat. I can't say how many days I've played this. Endless bus rides to school or back home. Harry said it would still have to be Texas Showdown. They are doing a reprint which will be coming out soon called Seas of Strife. Niet is a close second. Niet's another one I love. Niet's fantastic.
Harry's dead to me. Niet is number one.
Sorry, Harry, you're done. And Hal said for Northwood, solo trick taker, cute art, quite a challenge to win. Have you played that one, Mitch?
Oh yeah, I have. Yeah,
okay.
It's a good one. It's a little deck box of cards. You can take it anywhere. And yeah, it's got some. I won't go into detail. I think we've talked about it a couple of times. Dan's got it. It's some really cool mechanics and something that you never thought was possible. A trick taking game from one person.
Yeah, I can't understand how that works, but
they pull it off, and it's wicked. So yeah, if you like solo games, you like trick takers, that's the one to go for.
Cool.
It's probably the only one. How about you, Jules? Do you want to run through the Facebooks?
Yeah, sure thing. So we've got Reese said Cat in the Box, Shamans, and Yokai. We've also got Tegan said, I love Fox in the Forest because my husband will play it. Also, Niet is a lot of fun, though it may have been more about the fun crew at the table at last CanCon rather than the game itself.
I wonder who that was.
I don't know. Who would have brought Niet to that?
I'm not sure, but I know it wasn't the Dice Men Cometh.
Speaking of the Dice Men Cometh, they said the Crew 2 is a winner, as is Cat in the Box. The latter has an intriguing twist where you can assign what color card you are, but only to a limited degree, which is a fascinating little twist. And also Brian Wilcutt said, classic one for me, Spades. There's nothing like pulling off a blind nil with a good partner. I'm going to add one more in that I thought was worth a mention.
Yep.
That Draven also submitted one, and I was mind blown about his description. So he said his all-time favorite trick-taking game is a game that he learned as Rifki. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Okay.
It goes against a lot of modern trick-taking conventions because it requires exactly 4 players and takes around 2 hours to play. It's a little hard to explain, but you take turns choosing the scoring criteria for each hand from a menu of options. I like it because you have to shift gears and play differently depending on the cards and the scoring for that hand. There's even a little push your luck as options for scoring narrow towards the end of the game. I was like, whoa, a 2-hour trick-taking game. It sounds counterintuitive because I'm used to a lot of them being quite quick, fast games. But I like a lot of the games that Draven plays, and so I'm curious about this one.
But if you play a competitive game of Euchre or 500 or one of those other classic ones, they can drag on for quite some time, until someone gets to the 500 or until you score your 11 points in Euchre or whatever. Yeah. So I think, like the guys sort of touched on last week on the pod, that a lot of the original trick takers were designed to be the only game you played that night.
Yeah.
As opposed to playing, as opposed to sort of the filler type things we see today.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. I just want to say, I think my favorite trick taker at this point is probably Stickum. It's just so.
It seems like a new kind of game for sure.
It is. The only thing I wish they would do is fix the artwork. That thing's atrocious looking. It's so bad.
Does a trick taker need to be pretty though?
No, not necessarily. But I guess it's just like they tried to go for a pun and put a hedgehog on the box, but that thing is ugly. It's so bad. But yeah, the game is amazing.
Yeah, it's a great game. All right, so with that, we'll move on to this week's question of the pod. And Mike, you were the one that you were the mastermind that came up with this one, so I'll let you explain it.
I thought of it in advance, but I think it worked out well because I think a few of us have named them, especially things like Niet in the last segment we spoke about. What's Niet? Hard to get. What's your favorite hard to get game? I've got a lot of I don't know why I get a bit of a kick out of having these little hard to get games because it's fun to introduce things to somebody that they wouldn't have seen before or they might not get a chance to play. What are some of your favorite hard to get games?
Well, I'll go first if you don't mind, Jules. So there's a lot of people will say to you when you get into the hobby and you become a bit of an addict like we are, they say, are you a gamer? Do you play games, or are you a collector? Do you collect games? Especially when I see your big collections.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think the two things are exclusive. You can be a gamer and collector at the same time. You can do both. And so when it comes to hard to get games, I actually fall into a little bit of the collector side of me because I don't mind, like if I get an opportunity to get something that I know is hard to get and to get a hold of, then I usually jump at it. So So that's interesting how you take the question. So do you like when you say what's your favorite hard to get game? Is it your favorite that you enjoy playing the most, or your favorite because it's the hardest to get, so you cherish it as a collector's item?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So there's two different ways you could kind of take this. So if I go the sort of different route and say my favorite that I have because it is so hard to get is Batman Love Letter.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, at the end of the day, it's just Love Letter with Batman's skin on it. I think it's one of the ones that are the least adaptations in terms of how it plays. It's almost, if not identical, to the original Love Letter, just with different artwork. But it is super hard to get, and it's in somewhat high demand because of how scarce it is. So I was able to grab a copy a year or two ago, I think maybe, and so that's one of mine. Some others that jump to mind: Gears of War.
Okay.
Is I think Fantasy Flight no longer have the license to do that, so it's out of print. So that's one that I managed to get a hold of, and the expansion for that as well, which is hard to get that I have. Other hard to gets, just trying to think. Oh, of course, Niet.
Yeah. I was surprised, why hasn't Mitch done yet?
One of my all-time favorites, yeah. So I love that game as well. So there's three of mine. There's probably more, but I can't think of them at this point in time. How about you, Jules?
Yeah, so the one that comes to mind immediately, this is probably the game that I spent the longest time trying to source and came minutes away, I think about 5 times from getting it. It was the most frustrating experience trying to get a copy of this, but I finally got it, and that's Two Rooms and a Boom.
Yeah.
Oh, yep.
It's hard to get an actual production copy, but you can the print and play files are on the company's website. You can just print it at any time you want. But I wanted an actual copy because the cards are plastic. Like they don't. Yeah, it's a nice production. Simple. The plastic cards, they don't wear out. And I like the look of the box. It looks like a bomb. It's really cool. So that's probably the top one in terms of like super frustrating to try and get a hold of. I think the other one that comes to my mind is Black Rose Wars. Now, you can get retail copies of this. It's not that hard, but I have the original Kickstarter one. And that is extremely hard to get, especially with the stretch goal box, the Sator box. That is chock full of minis, and it like quadruples the base game's content. And I love everything that comes in that box. It's one of my favorite games, but like we said, one that is extremely hard to get your hands on. I also have another game. I haven't played it yet, though, but I'm happy that it's in my collection. And speaking of like miniature war games, that's what this one is. It's called Bone Forest. It's got a the minis are hand sculpted. It might be hard to even find that on the internet because it was done by an Italian publisher, but I fell in love with the artwork and the aesthetic of it that it just captivated me. And so I bought that game. I haven't played it yet because I want to paint it up and make it look absolutely stunning and absolutely disgusting because these creatures are vile looking, and it has all these game mechanics that revolve around eating bile, and it twists and torments you in weird ways, and you've got to be careful not to eat too much of the bile. So I don't know when I'll get to that project, but it's sitting in my collection, and they ran like one production run of it, and I was one of the first. I think it was like the first 25 or something buyers they got like a special promo mini, and I got a signed drawing from the artist of it as well. Cool. So that's probably that is the rarest thing in my collection, I would say, but it's a really, really cool looking game. I have no idea if it's any good, but honestly I was really buying it for the artwork in the book and the miniatures. So
yeah, right.
That's Bone Forest. It's pretty cool. If anyone wants to see the picture, I'll show you. I'll say this, it comes with like these trees. They're not really trees. It's like a femur bone, and it has tentacles on the bottom, so the trees can actually move around the board. It's so gross looking. I love it.
That's cool.
Cool. And what about you, Mike? Have you got any classics?
I've got a bunch. I've got a bunch of games that I think are hard to get that I enjoy. The ones that come to mind, a lot of them are from Germany. They're like German games I think used to be popular, just aren't anymore. Like my dexterity games, Riff Raff and Hamster Roll,
Yeah.
are hard to get. Oh, there's that other one that I got recently that I really like. I can't remember what it's called right now. It's not in English. It makes it harder. It's the one where you drop the cubes in the top and it's a murder mystery. I can't think of the name right now. Off to Fulcom Rouse is a fun one that no one's ever heard of before, but everyone enjoys playing. And another one, same as Jules, like one that I have that I've tried to play once and I haven't gone back because I think it needs a tournament style to play it properly, to really enjoy it properly. And also some of the rules were really convoluted and it frustrated me. It's Hate, Simon's game Hate.
Oh,
But
yeah.
same thing, the minis
Yes.
in that are amazing. They're really, really cool.
Yes.
The other one is my Bruce Lee mini for Unmatched is quite hard.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
you have that?
I had that. Yeah, I've got that. I've got that. It's
that's
really fun to
real
play with.
valuable.
Yeah.
Okay, great. That's awesome. But as always, it's not about us. It's not about us. You need it's going out to the community for you guys to get involved. Be on our Facebooks or Discords. Get on there and let us know about some of these hard to find games, hard to get a hold of games that you've got a hold of that you either really, really enjoy or really, really enjoy having. So with all of our socials, we'd love you all to get out there and join our Facebook community, Board Game BBQ community, or join our Discord where you can have chats with us, talk about games, just enjoy having a bit of a banter with everybody. It's a really good communities that we have there, and if you're not on there already, get on there. It's a lot of fun. Also, I'd like to thank our Patreons, who essentially are the reason why we can keep doing this, keep doing the game days, and keep doing whatever we can to make the hobby bigger. So really appreciate that. And with the community, the Patreons, I will do a shout out to Julian Ridden, Kim Branders, Andrew Green, and Chris Ingold, who are all Patreons. So thank you very much for your support. If you do want to support us, also you can tell your friends, go and listen to the podcast, give us a review on Spotify or on iTunes or whichever app you listen to. All of those things help the algorithms and help us get better exposure and to other people and help us grow. So if you could do any of those things, it would be very much appreciated. And with that, we will move on to our final segment this evening, which will be Swear an Oath. So, Swear an Oath time. How have we all gone? We've all been pretty busy. I think it might be a dicey one this time around. So I'm going to throw to Mike first.
Thanks,
did you go
Mitch.
with your oath, buddy?
So
You've had plenty of times. You've been laying on beaches in Bali. You've been having good times.
yeah,
Relaxing off work. You know, you got no excuses.
Yeah. So Jules, how'd you go? My last oath was Hair of the Dog, which is a little Kickstarter that had just come in. Life has been crazy. It has not happened. I'm usually pretty good at my oaths.
Boo.
It has not. I couldn't remember what it was. I had to look it up today. Like, what the hell did I swear an oath to do? I haven't been on for like 10 episodes. It's been a bit nuts. But I will get it done. And as we do, I will double down. At our game day yesterday, I picked up another game that's currently nominated for a Spiel des Jahres. It's Dorf Romantic. It's based off a computer game. I've never played it. I don't know a lot about it. I found out today it's actually a cooperative, like, tile laying game. Someone compared it to saying it's like a cooperative Carcassonne. So I don't even know if it's my kind of game. I sort of took a little bit of a punt of it. I heard someone else think it was good. Looks nice, but haven't even opened the box yet. So I, Michael Farrugia, will play Hair of the Dog and Dorf Romantic by the time on the podcast next.
Cool. Very good. Very good. Well, I'm going to go to me next because I think Jules is going to bring us home strong with wind in his sails. So I'm going to go next. My oath was to play, I think last time I was on the pod, I was going to Dean from Advent Games place. He was having a good game day. And so I swore to go there and to play some trick takers with whoever was interested. And I did that. And funnily enough, Jules, you were in that game. And we played a brand new trick taker that's, I believe, still coming out from Pandasaurus Games called Aurum.
Yeah, that's right. Hasn't been released yet.
Yeah,
cheeky little advanced copy there.
Yeah, but that was a lot of fun. I'm definitely going to be putting my hand up to grab a copy of that when it comes out, hot off the presses, because it was really good. It had this kind of interesting mechanic where some games you wanted to win, some games you had the bidding thing where you bid for how many tricks you wanted.
Yeah.
The way those gold trumps came out was very interesting indeed.
Yeah, so basically, if you had the lowest card in the trick, you get to take a gold trump card of that same value. But those gold trump cards are worth points. So you can spend your points to use a trump card or try and save them to score your points. It's got some real neat wrinkles in this game, and it's very clever. I think this is going to be a big hit, this one.
Yeah, I think so. If you can hit the market before the trick taking craze dies, I think it'll be doing well. And if I remember rightly, I think you partnered with Harry, and I was partnered with Lee, who's the creator of Grimwald and a member of our community. And can you remember who won, Jules? I can't remember.
Look, it's not really important details. We all had fun.
We know who won, Lee, right? We know who won. Anyway.
That was a great game. That's the other thing I'll point out that's unique about it. It plays only at 3 players, that's a free-for-all, or 4 players where it's a 2 versus 2 game, which is quite different.
Yep. Okay, and so I've done that oath, and for my next oath, this is going to be an interesting one because I am literally flying out of the country in 2 days. I'm going to be away for a month or so, so I won't be taking any. I've got Cloud Spire to play. I've got Victorian Hoplomachus to play. I've got I bought Undaunted Stalingrad yesterday. I've picked up a copy. I've got a lot of new games. Let's put it that way. The last week or so.
Not just a lot of new games, a lot of new big games.
Yeah, exactly. But none of them are going to fit in my hand luggage. So
that is true.
So they're not going to make the journey with me. So I won't be able to get any of those done. I will pick up a little game that I did pick up a little game, and it's a bit of a cop-out oath, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's probably the only one that I'll be able to do on my trip. It was a game that was introduced to me by Mike, maybe the only game that he's ever recommended that was any good. But I thought it would be the perfect game to travel with and to play up to 5 players with. You know, if we ever have any nights where we're in the hotel and we're just chilling and we're not keen to go out, we're going to sit around with the family and play a little card game, and that is
very nice.
Yes,
Illusion.
Yes,
Illusion. So as I said, I've
That
played
is
it
a great
before,
game.
but haven't played my copy, and I think my family's definitely never played it before, and I think they'll love it. So as a little travel game, I, Mitch Ketty, swear that on my trip I will get the family playing Illusion, and I'll make sure they love it, or else.
I need to get myself a copy of that. It's so good.
Must have.
Yeah.
So that's a good little staple to have.
Yep.
Yeah. I found it's great for when you're about to play another game and you're waiting for players. Hey, let's just play this while we wait for someone, or,
Yes.
Yeah,
Because you can
100%.
kind of stop it at
Yeah,
any
you don't
time,
really care.
Yeah. It's brilliant. You could even pretty much technically play it solo.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, I couldn't see why not.
I mean, you're not going to win or lose or whatever, because
but just
obviously
for the
you don't get to
experience. Yeah.
You could just challenge yourself to see how many in a row you could get correct.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that brings us down to Jules. You're going to come home strong, Jules. How'd you go?
Mixed success.
Right.
Mixed success is how I'll put it. So outstanding was to get back into the Cloud Spire solo campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done that. I've been doing events out the wazoo for the past month. But the other oath I have completed was I now have a table of a suitable size for me to play that game on. So I will be able to play some Cloud Spire. At the moment, that table is currently covered in miniature painting stuff. But I am getting some storage solutions to fix that up. So yes, I still need to play Cloud Spire, the solo campaign. I'm going to add a new oath, and this game delivered a while ago, and frustratingly, I just have not been able to play it. I had no time at the game day. I packed it in my bag on the off chance I could, but I didn't get to play much. And that's my copy of Ra.
Okay.
Right.
I have the deluxe copy with all the wooden tokens, the metal coins, the full shebang. I'm very excited to play it. I really enjoy auction games, so I really want to play it. So I, Jules Watson, swear by the time I'm on the next podcast, I will have played Ra.
Awesome. Alrighty. Well, that's 3 O's down, 3 O's done, almost kind of. And that's the end of the show. So thanks, guys, for coming along tonight. It's been awesome fun. And I said before we started recording, I think it's been a while since I've been on with both of you guys. So
Yeah.
it's been great to be back and
Thank you.
have a bit of a chit chat. But yeah, let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
Maybe in about a month when you're back.
Sounds good. I'll have some
Enjoy
more
your
stories
trip.
by then. Thanks, guys. All right. Look after the barbecue for me while I'm gone, and we will talk to you all again soon. Cheers. Bye.
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 Hello, and welcome to the Board Game BBQ podcast. That's not supposed to happen.
No, it's not. Don't let an old man do technology stuff.
Is it just looping?
Yeah, but I don't know why.
That's funny. I can't actually hear it. It sort of cuts in
I
and
can
out
hear
for
it.
me. Yeah, I
That's
can't.
weird. Why did it do that? It's never done that before. Anyway. Adrian will have to edit that out now.
Yeah. Secret segment tick.
Yeah. So that will take us on. Speaking of Facebook and Discord communities, I'd just like to shout out to anyone who's joined those online resources of ours, because Jesus Christ, that was terrible. I'm going to start it again. Blood bumbling all over the place. Add another edit here.